Hello, and welcome to Lesson 4 of Financial Sobriety School with me, Linda Parmar, financial sobriety expert and founder of Financial Sobriety School. Thanks so much for coming to Lesson 4. Lesson 4 is going to be all about the first foundation of financial sobriety. So, what that foundation is understanding your financial feelings. One thing I know to be so true is that when people are having a hard time with money, when negative stuff is coming up about money, when there's negative feelings, when there's narrative kind of happening in the background with the money, most of the time it has nothing to do with the money. It has to do with the behaviors behind the money. It has to do with the patterns. It has to do with the feelings that we're trying to push down, that we're trying to numb out, and to replace that with numbing out on our spending and buying things that we think are going to make us happy. Now, just think when you have been in a space where you have felt really emotional, really stressed out, anxious, and what is one of the first things you reach for? Probably your phone. Probably your phone. And then there's this impulse that happens immediately, or that impulse happens, and then you pick up your phone because you're wanting to change how you feel. It feels uncomfortable. It feels like it's something you don't want to be experiencing. So that's where the trying to buy something to make you feel better comes in. And does it really make us feel better? Has that really made you feel better? And if so, for how long? I know myself when I was knee deep in my spending addiction, what the most horrible part about it was the regret, the embarrassment, the anxiety, all of that after making a purchase that I know I didn't need, I know I didn't have the money for, and then the mind would just start racing. And sometimes we even reach for spending to even make us feel better from that. So that's why there's the first foundation of financial sobriety, of starting to really tune into those feelings, starting to understand and being able to tap into that of what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling that? And what am I going to do to start to move through it? I know myself when I first started my recovery overall from alcohol and then with spending, there's such a huge saying in the recovery community, and I'm laughing because it's something that absolutely drives me crazy. Just let it go. Just let it go. And it's kind of when you're feeling really super anxious and somebody says, just calm down. Just calm down. You're going to feel better. And it's like, heck no, I'm not feeling better when you tell me to calm down, right? Oh, just let it go. Oh, yeah, like it's so easy. And that's why I said it's something that we need to figure out how we're going to move through something instead of just, bypassing and letting it go. I love the word releasing. And releasing really to me is working through what's actually happening. So, one of the biggest things that I do for myself is and this was one of the first things I did when I started my financial sobriety, when I would be out in my car. And back then, and it was only like 5 years ago, but even back then, because I was doing a lot of my shopping on my lunch hour from my super stressful job. So, I was going into a store a lot, but then with the pandemic and everything, and just convenience wise, online shopping obviously is one of the biggest contenders for that. But I had a little journal in my car. And when I felt that impulse, it's like, okay, finding that trigger of like, and recognizing when that impulse comes up. I will say that is the biggest piece of this work, is being able to understand, oh, I'm feeling this way and I want to go spend money, and being able to turn that into a conscious feeling instead of a completely unconscious feeling. And being unconscious about what you're doing is totally normal right now. Right? Like what, and there's probably times where you've gone on a little spending spree or something's happened and you're like, I don't even know what happened. I don't even know what happened because your brain, it's just kind of you're coming out of that emotional, your thinking is coming out of that emotional brain, and you're just in an unconscious, already built neural pathway that's just like, okay, impulse, shop, spend, regret. Right? So it's this constant thing that you are just, that's what you know how to do, let alone living in this world right now of capitalism and consumerism. We are inundated all day, every day with advertisements, with things that we're supposed to feel better if we buy it, that we're going to be a better person if we have it. And we're fed all these lies. And it's really, really easy to give into those lies. And honestly, it's a normal thing right now. And it's normal to go into debt to buy all this stuff because that's what you feel like you should do. And that's where that, since you were probably a kid, the way you thought about spending, the way you thought about a lot of things is just an unconscious behavior now. And spending is absolutely one of those things. And I'm here to tell you that once we start to tap into our feelings, once we start to be really aware of that behavior, catching when we're starting to think about that behavior, the good news is it can change. And I always say this, if I can change, anybody can do it because my addiction was so, so strong. And I'm so, so proud of the work I've done, which has brought me to this place to be able to help support you to work through your overspending, your addictive spending, overspending, compulsive spending, all of it. I am here, and that's why Financial Sobriety School is here. So, understanding our financial feelings. What does that look like? What does that, how do you do that? What does it mean? Right? So, that's again being able to understand when you're having an impulse and kind of making sure that even we're setting ourselves up to maybe even trying to get ourselves to a place of grounding where we're not even in that place where we want to even have that impulse. I did some training last year with the trauma of money, and it was so great. And they have what's called a window of tolerance. So, from going from very low arousal to like checked out, not even present, maybe a bit dissociated, to like hyper arousal, like completely manic, completely just like on a spending spree, where I was when I had my blackout spending that I talked about in my story. And how do we bring that into the window of tolerance where we can actually make some choices, where we can actually be present and know what we're doing? Because a lot of the times, again, we're unconsciously doing things. 90% of the decisions that you make every day are unconscious. I'll let that sink in for a sec. 90% of the decisions you make are completely unconscious. Your brain is just working its neural pathways as it's been trained to do. It's doing its job, and we're not even thinking about it. So, how do we get to a place where we can be in a grounded place, being aware of what's happening around us, being able to make decisions and understand what's going on? And one of those biggest things is being able to stop ourselves and ask the question, what's really going on for me right now? I really feel like I want to buy this dress for this event. And that was a big one for me, was buying clothes, buying shoes, buying all the things that I thought was going to make me a different person, and or the person that I always wanted to present to be because I wanted to present as perfect. And that fantasy starts to happen of picturing yourself in that dress, or picturing yourself in a certain outfit, or picturing yourself with a certain hair product, what it does to your hair. And you have your coming out party of like this, what was it, like the hair wrap at one point last year, like just like that thing you had to have because, oh my goodness, it was going to make you look so much better. You would feel so much better. You would be so much better. But what's actually happening in that moment? Why are you wanting to have something outside of you to feel different? Why are you trying to have something that you can buy that you think is going to fill that void of not feeling enough? And that probably landed pretty hard because I know that even I still have that. I still have those fantasies of what I think is going to make me feel different, look different, be different, and it's all this fantasy in my head, and when I actually get that thing, it the fantasy, the little Cinderella story, it's over, right? What are you actually numbing out? What feelings are you actually trying to escape from? I know when I was drinking, that was just an escape. And I often say, when I came into recovery, is pulling back those layers of finally being sober, finally being here and feeling all the feelings. And that is the hardest part about sobriety overall. We actually have to feel our feelings, but at the same time, what a gift when we move through that. And I know that when I say that out loud, that probably sounds like, "Oh, yeah, Linda, that sounds so easy to do," and it's not. And I completely acknowledge that. But just opening up to the thought of, what am I trying to run from? What am I trying to escape from when I'm spending, when I'm trying to feel better that way? What does that mean? Checking in with yourself before you go into a store or before you even pick up your phone, right? If there's even something you can put like your wallpaper on your phone that when you pick it up, it's like this a little mantra maybe of like, don't go on, you're not here to go on to Amazon today or deleting that Amazon app, right? Like for a moment while you're really starting to drop into yourself and drop into those feelings, that's okay. Maybe if you have to take that extra step and go onto a computer to order from Amazon, right? But that whole point of stopping. And my big trick is when I go into a store, taking 3 really deep breaths. And that sounds simple. And honestly, it is, right? But sometimes we make it so hard for ourselves to just slow down. Slowing down. How am I feeling right now? Is this actually a good idea for me to go into this store right now? Am I feeling really heightened? Where am I on the window of tolerance of like, am I really feeling really, really low and checked out and dissociated and not in my body? Or do I feel like, oh my goodness, my whole body's shaking and I just need to go and spend some money and feel better? Where are you on that range? And asking yourself, do I really need that? Is it a want? And a big trick that I love to really recommend to people, and it's a little bit of a slippery slope, so everybody needs to do what they feel is best for them. But I know that putting things into a cart when you're in an online store sometimes can still give you that dopamine hit, but making sure that you don't check it out. Just put it in the cart. Yeah, it's sitting there and making, like a 24-hour, 48-hour rule of, okay, is this actually something I need? And I bet you like 5 hours later, you're gonna go like, "No, I don't know why I thought that the Dyson hair wrap was going to change my life. It's $600 or whatever crazy amount that it is," right? And so just some thoughts about that. Maybe sitting down before you go on to do your grocery shopping online, if that's something you do, and, checking in with yourself with your journaling. How am I doing today? What's going on today? How am I feeling? What emotion am I feeling right now? Maybe doing a daily practice of some mindfulness, some meditation, some journaling in the morning. How am I feeling today? Connecting with ourselves and actually being able to know how we're feeling. Do you wake up and you actually have no idea how you feel and you're just kind of going through the motions and not feeling very happy. And that's okay. But being aware of it and then understanding why you're making some decisions because you're feeling that way is exactly what I mean by understanding your financial feelings. A lot of times the stress starts to live in our bodies and we dissociate a lot. And a lot of time that does happen with your spending. You're again unconscious, not even thinking about it. I have a favorite book for that, Burnout by Amelia and Emily Nagelski. It talks about completing the stress cycle. And there's so much stress around money, right? And so many things that get stuck within us. And sometimes we are not, it's really, really hard for us to even think about being present with money. And that's where it's maybe a meditation, maybe just some simple breathing, some writing. Writing is a form of meditation, or just even an affirmation, a mantra of some sort. Planning your spending, putting boundaries around it, checking in with our feelings and knowing what's going on within us and being aware, feeling it, not trying to push it aside, not trying to ignore it, but honoring how we're feeling. And then how are we going to, maybe change that? Just go out for a quick walk, maybe have a workout, maybe put on our favorite song and freaking dance our butts off, right? Like just really start to feel good. I know shaking is also, doing my little shake, a version of like also starting to let stuff go. And that's what they talk about in burnout is, going to the point where we are releasing that stress cycle. We're working through that, getting those feelings out of our body and starting to think what's possible, starting to maybe feel some hope, starting to feel connected, starting to feel grounded. And that's where we can come from a place of sober spending and living our financial sobriety when we're clear, when we are conscious, when we're grounded, when we feel sober, right? Sober spending, that's where that comes into play, and making decisions that we feel aligned with and that you actually feel good about. This will take some time and it will take some practice. I love my therapist always has the saying, practice makes perfect, right? As long as you keep trying, right? Keep trying, keep trying. And, money isn't a linear journey, right? It's a up and down and we go in all different directions. But the point is just keep going. Keep checking in with yourself. How are you doing today? How are you doing right now? Because how you're doing today and how you're doing an hour from now might be completely different. Different stressors come into our lives. How can we start to remove those? Something to start to investigate within yourself to start your financial sobriety is understanding your financial feelings. So excited that you're able to listen to this lesson today. So excited to share that with you and get you started on dropping into yourself, connecting with your heart, getting into a balanced feeling. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, rate this episode if you loved it. I would appreciate it so much. Share it with everyone. That Financial Sobriety School is dropping lessons every week to be able to support you and your financial sobriety. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you for next lesson next week. Bye.